Hi everybody, it's the 27th of March 2025 and it's finally happened. 1.3 has dropped for the public versions of Arma Reforger on the PlayStation, PC and Xbox. So what I thought we'd do in this video is we'll go through the blog and then we'll go through the changelog as well, some of it as well, just to highlight some of the most important things, which you can kind of see here actually in this picture. We've got mortars. We've got the new LAV armoured vehicle, fighting armoured vehicle for the US forces. We've got rocket gunships, and we've got destruction of every single building can now be destroyed in Arma Reforger, and trees will fall down as well. So this is a really big one. It's really going to transform the game, especially with mortars having kind of small form artillery. So here we go. Get to cover, soldier. Incoming fire support. The game-changing 1.3 update for Arma Reforger brings many new and exciting vehicles, weapon systems, and improvements. Nowhere on the battlefield is safe anymore, and everyone will need to adapt to stay in the fight. And there's a very nice little video as well that kind of highlights all this sort of stuff. Right, the LAV-25 and the BRDM-2. Two new infantry fighting vehicles have reached Everon and Ireland. The US forces have gained the LAV-25 with its powerful 25mm M242 autocannon, capable of firing high explosive rounds, and its 7.62 M240 coaxial machine gun. Both weapons utilise powerful 7x optical sight for target acquisition at long ranges. So don't be fooled by the idea that it's just a 25mm M242 autocannon, because those high explosive rounds that you can use are very, very powerful indeed. The Soviet Army and the FIA, they're the independent faction, have been reinforced by the BRDM-2 combat reconnaissance vehicle. It is smaller and lighter than the already available BTR, but equipped with the same firepower, a 14.5mm KPVT machine gun and a 7.62 PKT. So maybe the way they're going to balance the LAVs versus the BRDMs is with the BTRs is you'll have more BRDMs. So maybe the Americans will have the more powerful armor, but they won't have as much of it. Offensive helicopters command the skies and the pilot's seat of the gunship variants of the Mi-8 and UH-1H Huey helicopters, with the new fully adjustable collimator sights, detachable rocket pods, and various ammunition options for each gunship. You can keep the enemy forces suppressed and constantly retreating. If you're on the ground, make sure to watch the skies and have your RPGs ready. These are really powerful. The way that they're balanced really is lack of ammunition. The fact that you'll fire off a few salvos and then you'll have to go and land again. And I'm kind of looking forward to the rock paper scissors of this, because you can suppress enemy helicopters not necessarily by shooting them down, but rather by setting up mobile mortar positions, using the construction trucks to then bring down mortar fire on the helicopter landing pads where they'll be going to refuel and rearm. So I think that's going to be interesting. I think the life of an ordinary infantryman is going to be pretty tough over the next few weeks and months in Reforger, because you're going to have to deal with mortars, you're going to have to deal with rocket gunships, and the abilities to take them on. I think maybe what we're going to have to do is you're going to have a lot more infantry carrying like the M60 or the RPK, the light machine guns, so that you can really respond to the helicopters, cause them some damage, and then probably have like RPGs or the American law to deal with the extra armor. So it's going to be a really dynamic battlefield. And battlefield is really the right word as well, because I'm pretty sure you're going to see battlefield moments. I mean, we see battlefield moments now, and if you think, what are you talking about, Rob? Well, in the game Battlefield, like Battlefield 3, 4, 1, 5, and 2042, a battlefield moment is a crazy thing where generally different elements come together of infantry, armor, and aircraft, in this crazy engagement that you'll get that normally is really cinematic as well, and you'll be like, oh my gosh, this was a battlefield moment. Mortars, here we go. Arma Reforger brings realistic and immersive mortars into the game. Delay enemy advances, cut off supply routes, level town, support friendly attacking forces from kilometres away. Both the Soviet 2B M14 82mm mortar and its US M252 81mm counterpart change the landscape of the battlefield significantly, coordinate with spotters near the target area for maximum effect. So to give you an idea, the American mortar can do about 2,900 meters, and the Russian has a maximum range of about 2,300, which is, I guess you'd say, probably about, if we were to split the Everon, it's probably like a fifth of the way down Everon, probably. So they can reach a long way. So if you set up a mortar position, and you can set up mortar positions at HQs, but you can also have a construction truck and go and put one in the middle of nowhere. And if you had a well hidden one in the middle of the map, the problem is that you have to know where the enemies are, because you can work out where you are really accurately, and then I guess you'd know where they are because of capture points, wouldn't you? And it kind of makes sense now with mortars that they've been talking about where they want to go with bases is where you don't have set bases. So at the moment, you have to go and capture a particular HQ. The HQs are all there, aren't they? The FIA have got them, and you've got to go and capture that. You can't build your own HQ in the middle of nowhere. And so the problem with having fixed HQs is that anybody who's got a notepad and pen can write down and zero in their mortars for particular positions, and they can just rank up to sergeant, get the right supplies, drive to a particular location that's say 2,500 meters away from like military base Levy as one, or the military base at Levy, and then just start lobbing mortars in. Something like that. You're going to be able to do that sort of thing. Building and tree destruction. Solid cover is now temporary. Destruction changes everything. The battlefield will never be the same again after a long and intense battle with mortar barrages, helicopter rocket sorties, and vehicular combat. Buildings can be destroyed, entire forests can be cleared, sight lines can be expanded, and choke points can be bypassed. Learn to navigate the destructible countryside of Ireland and Everon and use it to your advantage. We're going to see what this does. Elimination scenario. This is cool. So the single player scenario, I recommend you have a crack with this. It's quite difficult. You've got to get into an area and kill this guy. Very sniper elite-ish, if you ask me. Looking forward to trying to create some of these scenarios myself. Expanded vehicles. So now the trucks can now take 1,500 supplies in a single load. So that's really good, that. And then you've got new variations on the UAZ. That's the Russian Jeep. The Sarka 1203 cargo can carry more supplies. The UH-1 helicopters now come in civilian colours. The FIA motorpool has been expanded with the UAZ 452, with the BRT, the BTR-70, and the BDR-M2. Now that's interesting. It's like they're really building up the FIA to be a playable faction. If they're not already, they might be in this update. I haven't played this update. So, overhauled game system. So what's going to happen now is you're going to need get to certain ranks to get certain things out of the supply depots. So I've talked about mortars. So, for example, if you want to build a mortar, you've got to be at least a sergeant. The thing that's going to affect most people is going to be sniper rifles or marksman rifles. So if you want to get the SVD and a scope, or the American sniper and a scope, you're going to have to be at least a sergeant, I think, from my testing, which is a bit of a bummer. I mean, it's not too. So what you end up doing is that if you become a corporal, on the American side, you can have an M16 with a red dot, and the has the other scope, so that gives you a ranged weapon. And on the Russian side, you can get an AK. The AK, is it the AK-74S? I can't quite remember, but it's the one that's got the rail on, so you can put the scope on. So you do have access to a scoped weapon fairly early, and you're going to have to do a couple of supply runs or capture a couple of objectives. But if you want to, normally, like I would like to run with something like an AK and the SVD, you're not going to be able to do that straight away. Also, I think it's going to encourage us to practice more with the like with the M16 and the AK, engaging targets at distance, because you can do that. You just tend to have to kind of pepper them with single fire. I did mention at the time when they did this on experimental that I wasn't very happy with it, and I felt that it was taking fun away from the game. But we'll have to see how the community really responds, because most people will just update the game on their console or on their PC. They'll jump into a game of Conflict and they'll be like, how come I can't get the guns I normally want to play? And they might get a bit annoyed by it as well. This is interesting as well. Conflict game mode has undergone some significant changes. Players are now unable to spawn on contested bases. So what used to happen is if you were on a base defending it and you got shot, there would be a timer where you could respawn on that base to keep fighting against it. So now you won't be able to do that. So as soon as someone's trying to capture a base, that's it. There's no respawning on that base. So what you're going to have to do is, if you want to specifically defend a base, you're going to have a radio backpack nearby that you use to spawn in there. And then you can either teleport to it from another base, which is the recommended way of doing that. You can normally do that about every 10 minutes. Or you can spawn at that particular backpack a few times. So you're going to have to bear that in mind if you want to defend somewhere, because as soon as you're shot, that's it, you can't respawn there. And also, what they've also done here is they've changed it so that the capture time of a base is dependent on the number of radios that are attached to it. The reason for this is what they want to do is make it harder for enemies to capture bases that are behind enemy lines. So if you can imagine like your second or third base that you've captured in a game of Conflict on Everon, once you've captured that and then you've captured a load more, those initial bases will have lots of radios connected to them from other bases you've captured. So it's going to take a long time to capture those. So that if one does become captured, although you can't spawn there anymore, you'll be able to jump into a vehicle if you haven't got a radio backpack nearby and drive there and respond. Whereas for both sides, the HQs that are on the front line that are maybe only attached by one radio to a friendly base, they're going to be easier to capture because it's going to be a faster timer. Also, I think it's going to encourage people probably to build up their bases in a more consistent way as you move your front line forward. Because as you move your front line forward, if you can link, say, 3 bases to the one you want to capture, that base is then going to be much harder for the enemy to take back on a counterattack. But, we'll have to see. There's going to be some smaller Conflict game modes, which is nice. AI soldiers more deadly than ever. It says they're able to better target moving targets, and they're going to seek cover and counterattack and flank. Now, when I was playing this in the experimental, that was true, but I'm pretty sure they weren't as good at hitting you at range, which was better. So that as a solo player, if you came across a roadblock and had to try and kill everybody, or were trying to capture an objective by yourself, which happens when I'm playing, that they would be firing at you, but as long as you were fairly careful, you could and keep them at range, you could survive. So there we go. So I'll put a link to that in the description below this video. Let's have a quick look at the full changelog note now. And again, I'll link to this. So they say the names of official servers have been changed, so you're going to have to refavourite everything. They added the LAV-25 for the Americans and the BDM-2 for the Russians, the UH-1 gunships, so that's the rocket gunships, the Mi-8 gunships, the 252 mortar for the Americans, the 2B14 mortar for the Russians, building destruction, tree destruction, PKM and machine gun for the Soviets. That's going to be good against helicopters. Civilian Mi-8 and UH-1s, BTR-70 FIA, lots of different versions of the UAZ, cargo transport FIA and civilian. Added the UK 59 4x scope. Possibility to turn out as commander. By turn out, they mean poke your head out at the top of it, so that should be interesting. There's lots of separate map kits for the US and Soviet that contain different protractors. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, I haven't had a go at using the Russian protractor. I'll have to have a look at that. We'll have to have a look at that. Here we go. Scroll down. General added backblast damage for the RPG-7 and the Law. So when someone fires on them, don't be behind them. You'll get hurt. Arsenal has items that are ranked locked. Certain items are gated behind a specific rank, and arsenals cannot be used if a player has the Renegade rank. Oh, so that's a new rank now. That's really good, isn't it? So if you killed your own players, they're going to give you a Renegade, so you won't be able to use the Arsenal anymore. excellent. Added perceived faction, so it knows if you're disguised, and if someone is disguised and you kill them by accident, you won't get told off, you won't lose rank. However, if you are disguised and you kill enemies, so you're disguised as an enemy and you kill enemies, you'll get punished. Hand slot for carrying gadgets when the player doesn't have space in their inventory. Increased movement penalty on leg damage. Single player scenario elimination. Western, Everon and Montignac conflict variants. Added modules to Game Master, allowing Game Master to place mortar strikes, smoke grenades, minefields and flares. Game Master can now set faction relationships with global factions. There's also, you can also save Game Master setups as well. Changed base capturing logic, which we talked about. AI tweaked audio, changed nearby interaction visuals, blah blah blah. Modding. Here we are. Game Master saves can now be published to the workshop. So this is really cool. So I was trying to do this not that long ago and didn't realise you couldn't do it. So if you set up a Game Master scenario that you're going to use on your server, say you place loads of enemy soldiers in different locations, and then you place assets around the map, and the idea is, and a spawn point. So you and your buddies spawn in, and then you run a Game Master session. So a Game Master session, in most cases, is PvE. So it will be you and some friends, or people from your Discord or something like that. And the Game Master or the Zeus is looking down on them and saying to them, right, you need to go and capture military base Levy. And then as the Game Master, you've put some enemies there for them. And then you can say, right, you need to now go and capture this place on the coast. And then you maybe put a helicopter down, but you need to take this helicopter. So it's like you can change a scenario on the go. In fact, often you're creating the scenario on the go, but that initial setup that you can create with all these different assets and bases and vehicles, you can now save, which you've been able to do. You can always save it, but to publish it to the workshop, to share it with other people. So that is very exciting indeed. And we've got various stuff there. So there we go. Update 1.3 for Arma Reforger. I think this is a very, very exciting one. Not sure how the rank restrictions for the armory are going to be taken, but I know this extra armour and these rocket ships and these mortars, people are going to be loving that, aren't they? Anyway, that's enough from me. What do you think? The links to all this stuff will be in the description below this video, and of course, I'll see you again soon.